Welcome back. I'd like to now introduce our next speaker, Michella McIntosh. Sorry about this. Michella works as a library technician at Pittwater House School. After working in local government libraries for over 8 years, she decided to accept a job working in a school where the students range from early learning up to year 12. It is a unique opportunity to work across a broad range of ages and different levels of schooling. Michella's session is titled Future-Proofing Your Job in COVID Times.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of today. It sounds amazing. Hello, everyone. My name is Michella McIntosh, and today, like a lot of presenters on this program, I will be talking about how the COVID pandemic has changed our lives, both professionally and personally. I wanted to highlight certain things we can do to future-proof our roles to ensure our job and libraries remain relevant during unpredictable times. About 22 years ago, I was looking for an after-school job and was fortunate enough to start my library career shelving books at my local council library, Hornsby, for any of you Sydney-siders. My mother is an English teacher, so books have always been a huge part of my life. However, I never quite realised what an important community service libraries provided. This first experience working within a public library further encouraged my need to have a career which would value add back to my community. I've spent a lot of time in libraries, even after high school, as a patron or a member of staff. Each different library service evolves so it can cater to its client base. I have now worked within a library setting for 2 decades, in different states and in different sectors. While I worked in Cairns City, I realised they invested enormously in its Wi-Fi and desktop computers because their clients didn't have home computers or internet. Or Woollahra libraries, where there was a huge population increase of babies and children, so I advocated for an over 50% increase on the current children's activities which were being provided. I now work in an independent school with students aged from 3 years old through to year 12. In my current role, I need to cater for all student age groups, learning styles, their parents, and for our teaching and administration staff. At our library, we work with all departments to ensure we can provide them with the resources they need, so the teachers can provide our students with the best possible education we can. Libraries need to grow and change in order to remain relevant, a challenge at any given time. However, this need to adapt quickly became evident during March 2020, when the northern beaches of Sydney were plunged into an almost ceaseless lockdown. Life during COVID times, with lockdowns and working from home the norm, pushed us and management to evaluate our jobs. In a face-to-face job, it is challenging to work from home. How can one provide a service when parents, most students, and staff are not allowed within the library? Being in lockdown, it became clear that the library was an integral way where students and teachers connected with each other, and now this vital resource had been restricted. Like many of us, I interact with everyone who comes into the library. I'm generally the first person they see. I ask them how they are, and I'm interested in their response. I ask them what they need, and I provide that human connection. Feeling a connection is a core human need. Studies demonstrate that social connection can regulate our emotions, lower anxiety and depression, lead to higher self-esteem and empathy, and in turn improve our immune systems. By neglecting our need to connect, we could put our health at risk. A real, genuine human interaction has the power to prevent loneliness and isolation. A library, and in the way which we welcome everyone into our space, can encourage us to share experiences, feelings, and sometimes challenge us. It is something humans seek out, being intensely social beings. According to Psychology Today, people who don't experience human connection are more likely to suffer from depression and various other ailments, both of body and mind. COVID has highlighted the resurgence of the local and the value of community buying power. Local communities repeatedly promote the term buy local or support local. For example, buying locally grown produce or buying from your neighbourhood brewery. Just think how lockdown has influenced an individual's spending habit. Progressive library staff have been able to take advantage of this and have been able to build on our current users. It has been possible to target those who may not usually physically visit us for any number of reasons. Online resourcing, mainly in the form of ebooks, audiobooks and databases, have been a fantastic way for libraries to reach those people who couldn't, or during COVID, can't visit us. The library has always been an area where people use the space to work, learn, socialise, create, share and access technology. One thing I asked myself is, how was I going to support our student and staff wellbeing when I couldn't see them? Firstly, I ensured that our school's executive and WHS team knew that I would still be happy to come onto site if possible. So I was available to help with any resourcing needs. Our school has organised many a car park drive-through and to collect resources, and our WHS team also approved a click and collect type system to help service our staff and student needs. We prioritised and supported the HSC students with study guides and ensured that any supplementary materials were sent to them promptly. These initiatives became our equivalent of a pop-up or mobile library. For all of our 900 plus student cohort, each had a carefully tailored pack, taking into consideration their previous and current reading histories. From this, we can suggest future readings for any student in our library, which can be shared with either the teacher or the student. A great many of these suggestions meant that students had a further outlet to explore, enjoy, learn, and grow outside of their screens. And how are we going to manage the circulation of our tangible books? Whilst we have an e-library, both audio and print, it is still vital that we cater for different learning styles, abilities, and provide effective teaching methods. This involves providing all students within their diverse classroom or home setting a range of different avenues to understand new concepts. Remote learning also showed a widening of the gap between students who were well-resourced at home and those who were not. Some students struggled greatly with using technology daily, and upon reflection, the school discovered that they, and some parents, were not computer literate. They simply did not have the knowledge, ability, or inclination to use computers and related technology efficiently. Instructional videos needed to be produced along with cheat sheets to help even the playing field and ensure equal opportunity for all students. Our IT department worked alongside the library so we could provide the best possible experience for our school. We lent laptops and iPads to students, answered questions and demonstrated via online means when the provided instructions proved difficult for some to understand. It was through these means that our library was able to assist both students and teachers with remote learning. Providing equitable library access for students was also a consideration. A child in kindergarten with little technology knowledge will not have the skills to access online resources like a Year 9 student would. Weekly library lessons ensured that those who needed help could get help during designated times. We also made individual contact with every parent from kindergarten and Year 1 so we could ensure they understood how we could support them and what resources we could provide. Because I was allowed on site, junior students who were at school were allowed to visit the library for story times and to browse the collection to borrow. These students benefit from a change in routine and being away from their devices. What I became even more aware of during the pandemic was that it is vital that all students deserve access to a school library. Libraries support students' literacy and lifelong learning, help develop their empathy, build their critical thinking skills, and empower them with skills to navigate their world. Readers Advisory is one of our key daily duties, and when the student or staff member isn't necessarily easily available, it can be more of a challenge to match readers with books and books to readers. It becomes very difficult when you are unable to sell the book to a patron. I found borrowing history is a great source of help in this regard because I could better understand someone's interests and reading level. Given our collection size is very generous for our student cohort, the library holds just over 14 books per student. I was always able to put in more options for the student to look at. In addition to our physical collection, we were also able to direct students to our online collection. We extended loan periods and the number of resources which were allowed to be borrowed until students can return to school. We don't, however, know the long-term impact of overdue, missing or damaged resources on the library collection. We have decided that until all students are physically on campus and allowed into the library, we will not be following up any overdues. Management and the school's executive team have discussed the need to absorb some of these costs for missing resources. We also do not charge late fees for an overdue item. Additional class sets needed to be purchased. However, because of the school's commitment to differentiated learning and teaching, the library needed to source both hard and soft copies of texts, as well as any graphic novels or study notes which complemented the chosen texts. When purchasing hard copies of the text, we, like many of us today, suffered from shipping delays or the inability to find stock. I have carefully built an excellent relationship over the last 6 years with 2 local booksellers, and between them, I had little issue getting the copies I needed. Without these 2 relationships, resourcing our library to the highest possible standard wouldn't have been achievable. Cultivating relationships with local and independent booksellers is of utter importance. They are a wealth of information, not only on what has been popular with certain demographics, but how to extend someone's reading. Building on prior learning can, in turn, extend thinking. Students may then proceed to a more challenging text or one which offers different challenges, which means they are in the best possible position to broaden their understanding. Thereby, we help to develop ideas and imagination. The library has been integral to the organisation and therefore success of these take-home resource packs and our click and collect service. The library curated these resources, and because the needs of our users changed, what we provided needed to change. The library also provided a space where various groups meet. As this wasn't possible, we needed to think laterally about how these spaces could be best provided. The library has always been a safe place for anyone in the school to come and escape from the outside world and decompress about their day. Mentoring sessions were moved to an online capacity, as were networking for staff. We also started an online book club. However, I must admit, the uptake of this has been slow. We compete against an established book club run by our amazing local bookseller. For anyone who ever ventures to Avalon in Sydney's Northern Beaches, Beachside Bookshop is well worth a visit. Support local. Now that the library is accessible, we need to consider how things might change now that students are back. We envisage that the library will have an increase of students with timeout cards and increased lonely bodies in break times. We need to be aware of the potential for broken friendships after so long apart and how this pandemic has affected and changed them. We also need to consider how the pandemic has has impacted students' behaviour and academic motivation. Libraries have the potential and the power to change lives of anyone who walks through our doors or clicks onto our library website. Libraries provide answers to difficult and challenging questions. For those who work in a library are inclined to help those around us. Research conducted by the Pew Research Centre in America in 2017 found that 78% of people feel that public libraries find information that is reliable and trustworthy. 85% of millennials say that librarians can help them learn new things. 65% say that libraries can help them grow as people. This data proves how much individuals value their library and how important libraries and those who work in them are to society. Finally, what of the strains which were placed upon us, not only professionally, but personally? The threat of job losses for ourselves and our family members. To meet these changes in environment, libraries have had to rethink how we provide services to ensure we remain relevant and meet the educational and wellbeing outcomes for our users. On a personal note, when the pandemic first hit, I just returned from maternity leave. I remember dropping my 5-month-old daughter at the kindergarten and not being allowed in to see how she interacted with her educators or her friends. There was a sense of helplessness because I was unable to be directly involved in a big change in my baby's daily life. This feeling is one I'm sure many of us and our co-workers and students have felt over the past 19 months. In the northern beaches of Sydney, we are still recovering from the loss of Christmas 2020. I miss seeing my brother for the first time since he was born, and my husband couldn't see his mother or sister for the first time in his life. In an age where we are so remotely connected by Zooms, FaceTimes, TikTok, and texts, we have never found the need for human interaction so strongly. This is one of the reasons why I believe that face-to-face learning will never be supplanted by online learning. Library staff need to continue to advocate to executive teams and management for themselves and for their users. And maintaining a high profile is also important. Visibility and marketing of the library during this time is crucial to ensure our longevity. Whilst libraries will likely always be focused on books and reading, we have adapted and changed in line with the shifts in our community. We provide a range of services, programs, and events, which mean that the library has something to offer everyone both online and within our library walls. We have increased our mental health resources because we understand how stressed staff and students have been. It has always been part of the principles of a library to benefit and strengthen communities through free access. Socioeconomic gaps within our community have become more real and at the forefront of conversations during COVID. The best libraries in the world are adapting and responding to their local community. And over the past 2 years, COVID times have pushed libraries in the best possible way to ensure that we can still provide services even when our physical doors are closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Michella.
Pleasure.
We do have a couple of questions, or comments probably.
Okay.
One is Gail Smith, interesting, local booksellers may have gained from the pandemic. Our local bookstore remained open the whole time, purchased by click and collect. And Brenda Burr says, almost 2 years of continuous renewals, we can expect some items will never be seen again.
Yeah, completely agree. Look, we're very lucky that our executive team have decided that they, will absorb some of the costs for missing resources. I know that everyone won't be in the same position. let's just hope those books did actually get read over the last 2 years though, hey? I have uploaded a PowerPoint and it just has some photos from our drive-through click and collect. We ran that rain, hail or shine every week. It was a huge undertaking for our staff and our teachers and our WHS team. I can't thank them enough that they really did support the library and allowed me to be on site and allowed us to continue to do the job to the best of our ability.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Probably some comments are going to be made a little bit later. And there is a couple here from actually relating to Bonnie's presentation. How does your grandmother feel about being 102 years old, knowing not many people live to 100? Okay, and there's a couple of comments. One from Diana Burke: library staff became concierge and queue managers at the town hall next to the library in Rockdale. And Catherine Johnston says the Walls End Library at Newcastle Libraries front area was used as a vaccination hub for the last 9 weeks. So if you have any more questions or comments, and probably what's going to happen is that, you'll make a comment or ask a question, and then would probably might even, instead of doing it on the same session, we might actually do it as in this case, the one after. So if there's nothing else, we'll have another break. Thank you.